All right, what's going on, everybody? It's the Common Threads podcast here. Have my really great friend that I've known a long time now, Brandon Rumbaugh, one of the most inspirational, iconic people in my world and in the world in general. And through the last several years, 4 or 5 years, we have had a chance to continue to grow, become super close friends. I've had a chance to watch you grow businesses, get in your hands in a handful of other opportunities, and we'll talk about a handful of these things as well. But I just want to first and foremost thank you for being on here, Brandon. It's always awesome to get to talk with you, and I know our lives are so crazy and busy. Unfortunately, we don't get to see each other as much as we want, and partially it's because you live in Uniontown.
Yeah, I live an hour and a half away.
So it makes it hard.
A lot of people don't realize that, when I'm in the city, they think that, I must live around here, but I actually come here every day and spend about 4 or 5 hours in my truck a day. So, but you know how it is.
A lot of running around, man. And so, no, I just appreciate you a lot, dude. Our friendship has grown very strong. And as both of us have continued to kind of grow in the, just in the professional world as well, it's nice to see some overlap and our relationships are helping one another grow and kind of prosper. I
mean, it really is. And if you look back over the last 4 or 5 years, just the things that we have done together, like you've been a part of some pretty big moments in my life, like the fashion show. Like I proposed to my wife at the fashion show. It's just doing some of those things with you and being able to experience stuff like that with one of my, best friends and one of the people that I trust the most. It's an amazing thing. So I appreciate you having me on here and having me share my story, and just happy to see what's going to come in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I forgot what 2018 was the fashion show that we ended up doing at Foxtail.
Yep.
It was supposed to be on Grandview, got moved there. That was the first one, or... No. You were at the...
That was the second one.
Yes.
Or the third one.
Yep.
That was the second one that I did.
Correct.
Yes.
So you were in the strip district at room 16 whenever the air conditioning broke.
Yes.
That was the year that you came in.
Yes, that was fun.
That was brutal.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I mean, so that was 4 years ago now, and I appreciate you doing that, because at that point, I forget, I think Seamus may have introduced us.
Yeah.
Or somebody.
I forget. Yeah.
Might have been Brandon from Joyce's Jewelers.
That might have been it. But then it's kind of crazy because we became friends, and then I started to become friends with all those people too.
Yep.
As you were becoming, you were already friends with them, but building those relationships, and now it's we all have the same friends. It's crazy.
Well, and that's the one thing, even the fashion show. I talk about this on a couple of the episodes, but I always wanted to do something that was different, and I always wanted to do something that just didn't feel like a stuffy fashion show. And a big purpose of the event was so that people could network with one another.
Yeah.
And business owners could become friends. Athletes, celebrities can commingle with the guests and with the other business owners. And I look at, as the fashion shows have progressed through time, I look at who has stayed in touch with each other, and I see that you've become such great friends with a lot of those people, and that's what it's all about.
And people that I've typically, and there's really no other way to put it, but people that you typically don't have access to, people that, they're great people, but you just don't ever get the opportunity to meet them. And it's crazy because I text these guys, Seamus has been at my house, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't realize this, the funniest thing in the world, but I realized the type of guy that he was when he came to my house and we were filming one of those workout videos. And I'm expecting him to, he flew in on a private plane. I'm expecting him to pull up in an Escalade or somebody driving him. And he's like, dude, I flew Southwest and I rented a Hyundai. And he showed up in a Hyundai at my house in Uniontown, and we went and filmed a workout. That's the type of guy that I want to be like. You know what I mean? It's crazy. He's just, just good people. And I'm just fortunate and thankful that, we cross paths, because not only has it led to, a great friendship, but we've been able to do so much stuff together and refer people back and forth and, just build something here in the city, almost, our own network that we're able to share with other people and help them succeed.
Yeah, and that's what's cool is as I start looking at, business owners that are 50, 60, 70, and so on, and then I start comparing our journey, and you realize that as us and our group of friends and just people our age continue to succeed in business and life, then you kind of envision, hey, what the next 20 years would look like, what the next 30 years would look like. And it's cool because I know that the group of people that we have in our lives just continue to work their asses off.
It's unreal.
And when we get to that point of 40, 50, 60, and so on, I want to say that life becomes a little bit easier because the amount of work that we put in, and then as credibility flows and as credibility grows with all of us, hey, I know a guy that can do this, or a guy that can do that, or a gal that can do this, and then it's like, hey, talk to Brandon. Brandon has a survey company, which we'll talk about as well, and like now it becomes, hey, I don't need to siphon through Google to figure these out. I want to call my person that I trust, that I know, that can put me in touch with the right person.
And to be honest with you, if somebody calls you and you don't have an answer for them, you need to do some more networking, because you should have that in your pocket. If you're not, then you're not doing your job. I mean, our world, our lives revolve around relationships. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. If you can build relationships, maintain them, and just treat people good, you will be successful in anything that you do.
Yeah. How has that changed your life from the standpoint, and then we'll dive into your story here in a second, but just because you bring it up, and there are a lot of business owners that listen, a lot of people that are trying to get little nuggets, pearls, or whatever to be successful. And I think what you just said there really hits home on a lot. And that's being able to evaluate your own situation and to figure out where you are, what you need to do, and what changes you need to do to get there. I mean, how much has that impacted your life?
Oh my gosh. Just, and a lot of it wasn't even really me doing. A lot of it was me over the last 10 years since I've gotten hurt, watching. And what people don't realize is you just don't learn the good things that people do. You can learn from the bad things that people do. So I try to pay attention to the good and the bad, and I take bits and pieces of all that. And really what it came down to was people want to feel comfortable with you. Whatever industry that you're in, they want to know that you're going to pick up the phone, that you're going to answer them, that you're going to take the time to really put in the effort into whatever it is that you're doing for them. And if they feel comfortable with you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to come back. At least in my industry, what I've found, pricing isn't everything. It's important, don't get me wrong, in every industry. But what outweighs the price point is the quality of the customer service that you're going to get and the quality of the product that you're going to get. If people know that you're going to take care of them, they'll come back every time.
I think that's so valuable, because when it comes to people that I want to do business with, I don't shop around. If you gave me a referral to somebody, that's the only person I'm going to call. I'm going to say, hey, I want you to do the work. Because I know that if whatever the price is, they valued it properly. It may be more expensive than somebody else. It may be less expensive, but somebody else. But that's the value on what they put on there, and that comes from a trusted source in my relationship or my friend. And look, I want people to make money. And I want to pay a premium, or I want to pay a pricing that's fair to what I want to get out of it.
And people don't, people just focus on that number, and they say, well, why is so-and-so more expensive than so-and-so? Well, maybe, so-and-so has an extra 20 years experience in the industry, and they bring that experience with them. And that's why you're going to get a better service and a better product, because they've put in the time, they've put in the work. And that's why you might be paying a little more. Now, with that being said, are there people that just rip you off? There are, but that's why you use your contact and your contact list and your network to realize who those good people are, and you don't have to spend all that time, looking through and trying to find somebody that you can trust.
Yeah, and I think all of us, we were talking before the show started, about some work that I've had done and kind of got screwed over here and there. And there's so many situations where you get screwed over. It's just human nature. It's going to happen, right? You can't protect yourself completely. And a lot of those times were just random people that I trusted, and I should have went through somebody else, and I didn't. And you know somebody, you want to give them an opportunity, and you hope that they aren't who that they may be.
But you know what? The difference though between us and other people is we'll do it 10 times. We'll do it 10 times over, because that's like how somebody treats me isn't going to change the way that I treat other people. Just because so-and-so screwed me over, I want to see the good in people, and I want to say, hey, you know what, he might have did this, but they might do this right. And I know you're the same way, So, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's been a long ride, man. People make mistakes, shit happens. But at the end of the day, it's how do you make up for it? How do you make it right? And how do you bounce back from something decision-wise or situationally? And holding grudges, looking back on things and kind of reflecting on the past is not really the best benefit for the future.
Yeah, because you can't move forward until you let go of the past. I know it's cliche, but like if something or someone is bothering you, or something that's happened in the past is bothering you, you haven't gotten over that, unfortunately. You just haven't. And once you get through that, then you'll be able to move on. And sometimes that's what you need to do is just, hey, cut the cord and say, hey, it is what it is. I'm going to continue to do me, and everybody else can do what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of take us back, man. Coming from Uniontown, Pennsylvania, let's talk a little bit about growing up in your world, because I want to kind of dive into your journey, because obviously there's been so much that's happened, so much that you've been through, and so much you continue to accomplish, and it's so impressive to be a part from a distance, man. And you give me so much motivation for a lot of reasons, but just even every day to just be a better person and to appreciate things a little bit differently. So take me through, no, of course, man. Take me through growing up. Share what you're willing to, and let's kind of start diving into that story. Yeah,
and before I get into that, I just want to hit on a couple things that you just said. I've been very fortunate and blessed since I've gotten home, and we'll talk about my story, and all of it'll make sense. But I have had every opportunity to be successful, and at the end of the day, everything was placed right in front of me, and I just had to follow through with it. I've had great people like you, mentors, people that have pushed me and made sure that I had everything I needed to be successful. And I know not everybody has that. So I am very thankful. I think one of the best decisions that I made was moving back to Pittsburgh, to Western Pennsylvania, because I was welcomed with open arms. And if I would have went somewhere else, I don't know if I would be where I'm at right now in life. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I've been very blessed and grateful to have people like you surrounding me and helping me through the last 10 years of my life. But so I grew up in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour and 15 minutes south of Pittsburgh. I grew up, I would say, a little differently than your average person, than most people. I saw a lot of things growing up. Drugs, alcohol. A lot of us have seen that, and I saw some things that were going on in my house, and I knew I wanted to change. I wanted something different. And at 15 years old, I thought, well, what can I do? And I said, what? I'm not going to stay in this house with these people. My parents, and that don't really care. Like, I know that sounds kind of harsh, but when you're 15 years old and you literally can leave the house for a week and have no, you don't have to tell anybody where you're at. There's, no discipline, nothing. I was getting into some trouble doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And for whatever reason, I realized, hey, I don't want my life to be like this, because I knew sooner or later I would need to have some responsibility in my life. I'd have to get a job. I'd have to do all those things. And I knew that if I went down the path that I was going, that wasn't going to happen.
Well, how old were you when you started noticing or started to kind of say something may not feel right or may not feel right for you?
Yeah.
Because at 15, man, I was spitting spitballs at people, right?
Yeah. No, I think that once you're put in those situations, you're forced to open up your eyes a lot earlier than you're supposed to, because kids aren't supposed to make those decisions at 15 years old or 16 or 17, but just seeing some of the things that were going on, seeing what my parents were doing, seeing the things that they weren't doing. I would wonder why my dad wouldn't go to work for weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just wouldn't. I could not understand that. Like, as a man, you are to provide for your family. You're supposed to get your ass up and go to work every day. And you know what? If you don't have enough money, or you need more money, or you can't get the bills paid, what do? You get a second job. You know what I mean? Look at some of the most successful people in our world. They don't just do one thing. Right. They do multiple things. You know what I mean? So I saw all these things happening. I'm like, why? Why is our life the way that it is? Why do we live in a house where our rent is $250 a month? And not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if you're trying as hard as you possibly can and that's what you get, then that's great. I'd be very grateful for that. I'm happy. But if you're putting in minimal effort and that's what your life is, then yeah, I'm gonna say I want more. We should be doing more. That's just how it is. Yep. So I don't want people to take that the wrong way. But I just saw all these things that were going on, and I thought, maybe if I bring this up and say something to them, maybe things will change. And I said, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to leave. I want to move out. And they were like, all right, cool. So they signed over, I guess, guardianship or whatever it was. And I moved in with a friend in Waynesburg down in Greene County, and ended up going to Waynesburg High School, 11th and 12th grade, and then ended up graduating in 2007. And I went to college for a semester.
Did you play sports in high school?
Yeah. So I played football, baseball, basketball in high school.
At Uniontown or just at Waynesburg?
At Uniontown and Waynesburg, at both, yeah. And I mean, baseball was probably my sport. I had these big dreams of, playing in the major like everybody else does. And, at the time, I wanted to go to school to play baseball. Like, we never talked about college. We never talked about careers, none of that stuff. It's like, I didn't even know what college really was. I just thought, oh, it's another school right after high school. And all you do is you apply. If you get accepted, you show up and you go to school. And it's just like high school. They have sports teams. You do whatever you want, not realizing that college is very expensive.
Yeah.
And I happened to just pick one of the most expensive schools in the state.
Which was what?
Seton Hill University. Yep. And I got the tuition bill and realized that I couldn't afford it. My plan was to walk on to the baseball team and hopefully get a scholarship that would cover most of the costs. But, obviously when I got there in August and I'm, trying out and doing all these things, all that scholarship money was well gone.
Yep.
Like probably a year before that. And I just didn't know how all that worked. So obviously there was really nothing they could do for me. And I got that first bill and I was like, man, even if I wanted to, I couldn't stay here. So that's when things just started to go downhill. I stopped going to class, stopped doing all that good stuff, and thought, I need to turn my life around. What am I going to do? And
once you left school, or decided to do that, where did your mind go? What were you thinking about from that standpoint? Because that's in our day and age growing up, like, you had to go to school. That was what you were supposed to do.
That's what you thought, yeah.
Right? And now I think there's such a big shift where it's just a little bit different than it's ever been.
Yeah, so the one thing that I promised myself was I am not leaving. So I lived on campus there. I'm not moving again. If I go back to Uniontown, like, I'm not going back to Uniontown. Wherever I go, I'm going from here. So I got a hold of the recruiter. He came to my dorm. We did all the paperwork, and 2 weeks later, I was shipped off to Parris Island. I knew there was a war going on. I knew that, I was fairly tough, athletic. I thought I would do good in the military.
What year was this?
2007.
Okay.
So I graduated high school in the spring of 2007, went to Seton Hill in the fall of 2007, and then was at boot camp by November 14th, 2007. So I was at school for about 2.5 months. Mm-hmm. And went to boot camp and, did the whole boot camp thing. Marine Corps boot camp is supposed to be, one of the hardest out of all the branches. It's very mental. It's more mental than it is physical. Being an 18-year-old, as I thought I was, a grown man, having another grown man tell me when I can and can't do anything. Like, typical morning, wake up 4:30 in the morning. Everybody gets out of bed, stands on line. We're looking at each other, and they literally dress us like article of clothing, from piece to piece. Take your left sock, put it on. Take your right sock, put it on. Okay, everybody didn't do it together. Take your right sock off. Take your left sock off. Put your right sock on. All right, put your pants on. Take your pants off. Put your shirt on. Take it off. We would do that every morning for about an hour, and it was the most frustrating thing in the world. And I'm thinking, like, why are we wasting all this time? Not realizing that there was a reason and a method for all of this. It was about paying attention to the small details. It was about doing things together as a team, being able to do things together at the same time. If you're able to do those things and they transfer over to, let's say, combat, that could be the difference between somebody living and dying, paying attention to those smallest details. And
how do you, so real quick before we go in, you go from no structure
mm-hmm.
to a ton of structure.
Yeah.
At 17, 18, in the high teens going into, the early 20s. How hard?
For me, it wasn't, and this is going to sound crazy, but this is just me. It's different for everybody else. I never had structure, so it was like something that I craved. So like when I found it and I got it, I didn't look at it as, this is somebody that's just being an asshole and telling me what to do. This is somebody that's trying to change my life for the better. And I just grasped and held on to that. And sometimes we need that in our life, and I'm one of those people that need that in my life. Like, I need somebody constantly on me. I need somebody, telling me I better do this, I need to do this, like, pushing me. That's just the type of person I am, and it worked out perfect for me.
Yeah. Well, there's something absent in your life, right? And at that point, it's like there's a void that can be filled by joining the military, by having somebody there too that you knew was going to be there at all times.
Another family.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's basically what was missing. And like, nothing against like my mom and dad. Like, we've moved on since then, and we have a decent relationship now. You know what I mean? Nothing against them, and I hope they don't take it the wrong way. But this is my life. This is how I was brought up. So why am I going to tell it any differently? Right. I have no hard feelings for them, but I just knew that I wanted some type of structure in my life, and the Marine Corps gave that to me. So for the next 3 months, went through boot camp, ended up graduating, did all that good stuff, went to the School of Infantry, which is at down in Jacksonville, North Carolina, right next to Camp Lejeune, where I was stationed. And that's where my schooling was. So I was at school there for about 3 months, learning how to become a mortarman in the infantry. And for people that don't know, the infantry is, front lines. Our job is to go to war. That's what our job is. Just like you have a pilot, their job is to fly the plane. You have a mechanic, their job is to fix the trucks. Our job is to go to war, find the bad guys, keep everybody safe, do all that good stuff.
Did you get to choose that path?
I did. So I did get to choose that path. So before I went to boot camp, I had to select what side I wanted to go into. And I said I wanted to go infantry. I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the infantry. So I went in on an 0300 infantry option, which means I don't have a specific job, but once I get to schooling, I can pick what my specific job is, and then I'll get my designation. So once I got to the School of Infantry, there was, I could have been a mortarman, a machine gunner, a basic rifleman, or a tow gunner, which is like a large rocket launcher attached to a vehicle type deal. And I wanted to be, I don't know why, but mortars was very, it just intrigued me, and it was something that I wanted to learn about. And for people that don't know what mortars are, it's basically a tube that sits on the ground on a base plate, and you drop around into the tube, and it shoots like a rocket out, and it goes up in the air, comes down, explodes. It was great for Iraq and Afghanistan, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I went through that schooling for about 3 months, ended up graduating in April of 2008, and then I went to my unit, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, that was at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. They split our class up. Half of us went to Camp Lejeune, and then half of us went to Hawaii. And I was the unlucky one that got to go to North Carolina and not Hawaii.
At that point, right? So now you're going through training and everything. And I'm assuming there were people that you were close with in class that you knew at that point you weren't going to see them again, because who knows what route would go. They're now going to the other side of the United States. And then all of a sudden you're now in North Carolina. Yeah. How hard was that?
Yeah. I mean, for the first year that I was in the Marine Corps, it was like I was always moving and changing, and like, I'd have friends, and then I would leave them, and then I would make new friends, and then it was just like constantly changing for that first year. And it wasn't what I expected. You know what I mean? I did not expect that. It was kind of hard to get through that because, those 3 months in boot camp, you're literally doing everything with the same people. And then you go and you don't see those people anymore. It's a huge change. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but when you wake up every morning at 4:30 with the same person, for 3 months straight, and you eat with the same person, you sleep next to the same person, like you're basically married to these people, and then you don't see them. It's a big shock. And we started reconnecting as our time went on in the Marine Corps. We would go to this base, or we'd go overseas, and you'd run into somebody that you're in boot camp with, and it was good to catch up with them. But it seemed like the people that I went to boot camp with, I still remember all those people, and I still talk to most of them today. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming, man, you build up a brotherhood because you're going through something that majority of people will never experience, never understand.
Yeah.
The mental challenges that you have through that, the physical challenges.
It's just you're miserable. Yeah. And you're miserable, and at least you have that person to your left or your right, that brother or that sister to help you get through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were all just miserable and hated life together.
Yeah.
And we did it together. And we were good at what we did.
Yep. So then you guys broke up, two different groups, two different units. And what happens from that point?
So they went to their unit in Hawaii. I forget what 3-3. I forget what unit it was, but basically they went down there. We went to Camp Lejeune. I went to 1st Battalion 8th Marines, and I was attached to a weapons company. So there's typically 4 companies in a battalion, 4 or 5. So you have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, weapons, and then like a support element company. I was weapons company. So Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie company were all basic infantrymen, 0311. And then weapons company was our mortarmen, our machine gunners, and our scout snipers. So we were all working together. And we were kind of like a special element to where we would be, direct support for the other companies because we had bigger weapons, explosives, all those good things. So we were actually training up. As soon as we got there, the new guys, I'm part of the new guy group, we get dropped off, and our senior guys are there waiting for us. When I say senior guys, I mean the guys that have been there for a while. They already deployed overseas. Their job now is to train us to get ready for the next deployment. So they're not very nice to us.
Right out of the gate, it's
right out of the gate, it's, you have to, you earn your keep in the Marine Corps. I mean, that's just how it is. If you're good at what you do, people will leave you alone. If you suck at what you do, they're going to make you good at it, or they're going to make you miserable until you are good at it. Yeah. That's just how it is. So it's one of those things where somebody is constantly watching you. Somebody's constantly making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Somebody's making sure that you're always on your game. And what that does is it makes for a lot of competition, and it makes everybody that much better. We had guys that were running 3 miles in 15 minutes in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Like smoking a pack of Marlboro Reds, drinking a Bud Light while they're running 3 miles in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's hauling ass,
like
man.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like just different type of people, that it was just, it's a different lifestyle. And I think that the Marine Corps definitely prepared me for anything that I was going to experience later in life. Just going to combat. I mean, it changes you forever, and it gives you a better sense of appreciation for life, just seeing the things that we saw. But, when we got there, their job was to get us ready for war. We had no idea where we were going to go. Iraq's still happening. Afghanistan's starting to pick up. Who knows what else is going to happen? 9/11 had just happened, 6-7 years before that. So our country is still trying to figure all this stuff out. So they had every right to be hard on us because, the harder they are on us, the better we're going to be at our job, the less people that are going to lose their lives.
Yep.
So it all made sense. You just had to look at it differently. Some people looked at it as, they're just screwing with us. It is what it is, but the Marine Corps has been like that for the past 240 years, 245 years.
So from that standpoint, right, in kind of correlating to the everyday person that's non-military, you're going into a situation where you have an opportunity to look at it from two different lenses, right? And I think that's the value in life in general, too, is perspective changes everything. And oftentimes situations don't need to change, perspective needs to change.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the most powerful things that when you understand and why your mind is so important, because when you understand, hey, I ran into this situation in business, or I ran into this situation in life, or something happened in my personal life, how do I want to look at it? And how do I want to move forward through that? And sometimes it's a simple conversation, you talk through it, and then all of a sudden at the end of the conversation, you're like, that makes sense. I should look at it a different way, right?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because, and the easiest way to explain it, you have our group of guys that came in, you have me, I'm like looking forward to this. Like I'm hoping these guys tear me apart. Like I want them to make me as best as I can be. I want them to make me tough. You know what I mean? And then you have the other side of it where all these guys are just messing with us. They don't care. They're just doing this for fun, for their own enjoyment. And I just didn't look at it that. And maybe there was a little bit of that. I'm sure there was. But in my eyes, I wanted to find the good in it and think that they were just trying to make us better Marines.
Yeah.
Now, if there was something completely ridiculous, of course, you know what I mean? But
Well, I think what's crazy too is there were people that were just doing it because they're dicks and they, right? But
you have that in life too.
Exactly.
And it's the military is just like the civilian world. The civilian world is just like the military. You have your people that give a shit, your people that don't give a shit, people who are good at what they do, people that suck at what they do. And there's always people that get through the cracks, and you'll have those 1 in a million that absolutely suck, but somehow they find a way to make it work.
Yeah. It's crazy, dude. And that that's pretty important perspective on things because it's the world we live in, man. It really is.
You just got to roll with the punches and do what you can do.
Yeah. So you start getting involved in this. You have guys treating you well. You have guys treating you bad. People breaking you down. Everything from physical to mental. All these things are just caving in at the same time, and that's overwhelming, obviously, for somebody. And how long are you in at this point?
So we're about 6-7 months into the Marine Corps. So it's all still pretty fresh. I just turned 19 years old. Just turned 19 years old. So I'm still pretty young, which I think in the Marine Corps, the average age of like a squad leader is only like 21 or 22 years old.
That's so crazy.
It's nuts to be like at 21 years old when I was in Afghanistan, I was responsible for 25 people. Like my job was to make sure they lived. Like it's crazy. It's nuts. Shouldn't be that way.
And then you compare that to the everyday 21-year-old, 22-year-old man. It's just...
Man, I got to hit that snooze button one more time before I go to class that mommy and daddy's paying for. Not saying that's everybody,
no, man,
but it's the majority.
That's why I have such an admiration and appreciation for military and any first responders, right? You're in a different world. And I think obviously the times that we've been in the last 14, 15 months have just been utter chaos for a variation of reasons. But that's why I just, I'm so passionate about the military and I'm so passionate about what people have done because, dude, it's not easy, and it's the hardest thing from what somebody should want to do.
Yeah, and
you chose that. Yeah,
and exactly. And I wanted to make that a point. Like, you owe me nothing. Nobody owes me anything. I signed up for this. I felt that at 18 years old that I was capable. I had nothing going on in my life. Why not serve my country? Why not give back? Whether I believed in the war or not, that didn't matter. What I believed in was serving my country. So, that's ultimately what I decided to do. And to this day, one of the greatest things, probably top five greatest things I ever did was join the Marine Corps, even though everything that's happened to me. It's just changed my life for the better.
Yeah. So take me through, you start progressing through, boot camp, training and everything. So where do we go from there?
Yeah. So, we get settled in, all that good stuff. Then we start our training. We call it a workup. So basically we're training and working up for the next year for our deployment, which we told we were going to go to Iraq. So we train for about another 8-9 months, and then we get sent over to Iraq. We get sent to a place called Al-Assad.
So how long of training was it total?
About, before, counting boot camp, everything else, first deployment, about 2 years of training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before you even deployed or anything?
Before I deployed, yeah, for the first time.
And then the first time you're getting ready to deploy, how do you feel?
So it's a little different, okay? And I'll explain this because when I was going to Iraq, the war in Iraq was over. So I knew ahead of time when we were going there that we weren't going to do anything while we were there. Like, I just knew, like, they flat out told us, like, you're not going to be doing anything. You're going to be sitting on a post providing security. There's nothing going on. You're not going to be doing your job. And my first question was, why the hell are we going? Like, why waste all this money? Like, we're wasting just to send, like, one person over. That probably costs, I don't know, $100,000 to keep us, to fly us over there, feed us, for 7 months, do all that good stuff. Think about 1,500 people getting flown over there for what? Like, we wasted so much money, didn't do anything while we were there. And at this point in my career, I'm thinking, like, this is what I joined the Marine Corps for. You know what I mean? Like, this is a joke. And
you had to be mad, right?
I was, because I'm like, I don't want people to take this the wrong way. Like, I would never wish, like, combat on anybody. Because, like, it's not fun losing, seeing people you love get hurt or whatever. But, we trained our asses off for 2 years, and we wanted to fight the enemy, like after what they did to us. You know what I mean? Like they've killed so many of our own people in our own country. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again, and we weren't given that opportunity to do our job. So we thought, what are we doing here? So for the next 7 months, I fell in love with weightlifting, and that's when I started lifting weights, doing all that good stuff. I left Iraq in September of 2009. Probably benching 400 pounds for the first time in my life. I was like 5'3", 160 pounds, benching 400. It was awesome. But for those 7 months, I literally did nothing in Iraq but lift weights and eat food 4 times a day.
Yeah.
That's literally all I did.
When we talked about the first tour that you went over there and the conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I actually had better living conditions my first deployment in Iraq than I did in my second deployment in Afghanistan. Like Iraq was just, the war was pretty much over. The country, we'd been there for, a couple years at that point. We'd had everything over there that we needed. I mean, I had a damn swimming pool in Iraq. You know what I mean? I had Pizza Hut and Burger King like on base. Like it was crazy. Shit that you wouldn't expect. And once again, it just put you in this, we had Wi-Fi. Like I could get on Facebook and talk to people. Like to me, that's not the Marine Corps. Like that's not war. You know what I mean? Which it's fine. Nobody got hurt, great. We didn't lose anybody. But at the same time, we didn't help anybody either. Although we didn't lose anybody, who do we help? We didn't help anybody, all we did was spend taxpayer money. But, was over there for 7 months, and then, we came home, and I ended up getting promoted to corporal, became a squad leader. So my role had changed. Now I was responsible for training these new guys that were coming in and getting them ready to go to war. And sure enough, a few months after we got back, we were told, hey, we're going to Afghanistan this time. It's going to be completely different than your last deployment. People are going to get hurt. People are going to lose their lives. Like, this is the real deal. We need to get ready for this deployment. So we had, I think, 9 months to get ready.
So you came back, and then was there any time more than the 9 months, or it was as soon as you came back, they knew right away 9 months you're going?
Yeah, as soon as we came back, we got off the plane, and then as soon as you get back from a deployment, you go on, it's called post-deployment leave. They give you like 30 days to like vacation. And then when we got back from that 30-day vacation, they had already known that we were going to go to Afghanistan, and they had told us.
How hard is it whenever you're coming back and you get the 30 days and then you're like, shit, I just got acclimated 30 days back home. Mm-hmm. Now I have to give all that back up and I have to go back.
It makes you second guess joining the military. You're like, man. And I would go home on the weekends too. So like I realized the more I did that, the worse that it was. And I needed to just kind of trap myself in this little bubble down in North Carolina for the next 8 months. Because if I didn't do what I needed to do, not only could something happen to me, but I could be responsible for these other Marines losing their lives. So we took it very seriously. We had a great group of Marines. I think one of the best group of Marines ever. And it showed because when we got sent over to Afghanistan, our battalion commander, who oversees everybody, put us in the specific spot that we were in because of how good we were at everything that we did. Like, it was one of the more active spots in the country, and he wanted us there for that reason. And it was just good, made us feel good knowing that he thought that of us.
Yeah.
So we trained for the next 8-9 months, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared when we went over there, because you're always afraid of the unknown. And what did they mean when they said it would be completely different than the last deployment? What do they mean when people are going to get hurt? Does that mean somebody's going to get shot, blown up? Like, what does that mean?
So they just flat out said, hey, this is the real deal.
Like, it's going to happen. Like, not when. It's not if it's going to happen. It's just when.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, somebody is going to die. Somebody is going to lose limbs. Somebody is going to get shot. You're going to see civilians die. You're going to see kids die. You're going to see all this stuff. Start preparing yourself for it now. And then it's like, well, how do you even prepare for that? You don't. You can't. I mean, even you could see, some of those things that you see, even if you see them 100 times, you're still going to remember each situation individually. You know what I mean? You see a kid get killed, that's going to live with you forever. Especially in a country where the kid has no idea what the hell's even going on, and has nothing to do with anything, but they just happen to be in a place where there's some horrible people.
I think what's so tough to swallow in that standpoint is by living and being born in the United States of America, you hit the jackpot. You as in everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all do. And I see these people bitch and moan, and these celebrities, these athletes, these people that say, fuck America,
Yep.
this country sucks. You know, you hit the Powerball by being born here.
Yeah.
And I have such a difficult time with that stuff, man, because those kids that got killed didn't do anything other
Nothing.
than be reproduced.
All they did was they were born in that country. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, now don't get me wrong, you know, and I know you agree with me on this, that we have our own problems here in our own country.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We do. But I'd like to think that we have our stuff a lot more figured out than a lot of places do around the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not perfect. We're getting better. There's work that we need to do. But I feel like, you know, you have a pretty good opportunity here if you can put in the work.
Yeah, I mean, there's billions of people that don't have running water in the world. There are countries with people that they wake up every day not knowing where they're going to get food, and I'm talking hundreds of millions of people. So by being born in the United States of America, you don't have to worry about those things. There's opportunity now. Some situations are far more difficult than others. I'm not going to argue that fact, but when you step back and put it into perspective, you should be very thankful. We should all be very thankful where we're born.
Oh, of course. I mean, think about it. Me and you could both wake up tomorrow with no money in our bank account and say, hey, I think I want to do this. And we could go start a business and nobody could stop us.
Yep.
Nobody.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
So deployment, you're heading over and you get there.
Yeah, we get there. So we fly to a place in Afghanistan called Camp Leatherneck, and it was the main base in Afghanistan. It's where everybody coming in and going out of Afghanistan goes. So when you first get to a country like that, and you fly or you move so far away, you have to spend some time getting acclimated. So we spent 7 days on that base just getting used to the time change, the weather, all that good stuff. So we basically would just wake up, eat 3 times a day, you know, maybe PT, go run, lift weights, do that stuff for the first week. And then once we were acclimated, they put us on helicopters. They're actually called Ospreys. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but for the people listening, an Osprey, it's basically a plane and a helicopter. It worked really, really well for us in Afghanistan, and flying in and flying out. They're just very capable to maneuver.
And that's the one that can go vertical, horizontal, all that stuff.
So like the propellers can fold down, it can fly like a plane, they can fold up, and it'll fly like a helicopter.
How intense was that the first time you got on one of those?
No, so we'd done some of those in training, and they don't have a great track record. Like they crash a lot. I don't know why the Marine Corps still uses them, but anywhere you turn, you're like, oh, Osprey went down, and of course they're loading us up on them. But it was sketchy. I mean, it's sketchy anytime you get on anything in the military. I mean, think about it. It's not like you're getting on a Southwest airplane. But
it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it was an experience. And, you know, as we're flying in, you know what I mean? We're getting shot at. Like, that's the first time I've ever been shot at in my life. I did grow up in Uniontown, but I was never shot at before. Yeah. I've heard gunshots. But, you know, we're getting shot at as we're flying in this Osprey. And I'm like, we're not even on the ground yet, and they're already trying to kill us. Like, what's going to happen when we get there? So we get there. They drop us off, and they say, hey, walk a couple kilometers that way. You'll find this base on top of this hill. There's a unit there that you're going to relieve. They've been there for about a month. You're going to continue building up and fortifying the base. Your mission is to build a rapport with the locals and show them that we're there to help them and that we want to get the Taliban out. That was basically our mission. So we get up there and we get to where this other unit is, and I'll never forget this. You know, the first time I met these guys, and they had only been there, I think, for like a month or so. They were at another place, but they were just so beat down. Like, you could just see it in their eyes. They were, like, ready to go home. And I'm like, fuck, what did these guys go through? And the first week they hung out with us, we'd go out on patrol, and it would just be the squad leader. So myself and 7 other squad leaders would go out with their guys. They would show us the area, show us any important places, information, anything that we would relay to our guys when we would take them out. And
did they share with you horror stories of things that they've experienced?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of IEDs in the area, and IED is an improvised explosive device. Basically, that was their main way of fighting us, which is basically just a homemade bomb. They bury it in the ground, you step on it, it blows up. That was their main way. And then obviously machine gun, AK-47, all that good stuff. But the first time we went out with them, I thought one of their guys was joking with me, but we're walking and we come up on this building, and he tells me to look down. So I look down, and he draws a line in the sand with his foot, and he said, as long as you stay on this side of the line, you're good. You step on the other side of the line, they're gonna shoot at you. And I'm thinking, this dude's just messing with me, he's joking around, whatever. I'm like, yeah, whatever, in here, one out the other. We continue on with our patrol, and as soon as we step over that line, sure enough, we get shot at. I'm like, this dude wasn't joking. So as long as we...
What was the significance of the line? I mean, what...
No, I don't know if it was like a territory thing.
Was it an angle that they could see you? Was there...
I think that it was just they didn't want us coming past that certain spot. Like once we went past that certain point, we were in there. Like they felt like we were in their area, and they weren't going to have it. They didn't want us to come any further, any closer to them.
Okay.
And my guess would be they probably had like some type of hideout, or they were stashing, weapons, IEDs, ammo, all that good stuff, and they didn't want us to find it. I don't know. But for whatever reason, that's what happened. So I'm like, okay, we need to start taking this stuff serious. Like, people are going to get hurt. People are going to lose their lives. We really, really need to keep our head on a swivel, and we need to constantly be watching. So, a couple days go by, those guys end up leaving, and we do our first real kind of patrol with just our guys, and we come back.
And nobody had experience?
No, we had one guy, our platoon commander, or our platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Silva. He'd been in the Marine Corps for about 20 years. So he had been in combat before, and he was kind of leading the charge. And then we had two or three other squad leaders that saw some stuff very early in Iraq. But other than that, 95% of the platoon had not been in any type of combat situation. Yep. So we went on a patrol, our first big patrol, met a lot of the village elders there, and the older people in those villages, they actually are like the politicians, like the mayors and the state reps and all that, and they make the decisions for the community. So we would meet with them, and they would tell us about what's going on, the problems they were having, what they needed. If they were helping us, they would let us know, who the Taliban was, where they were, all that good stuff. We got back from that patrol, and we debriefed, talked about it, and then our platoon sergeant wanted to check out some of these buildings that were on this hill. So me and him walk over, and we're looking through the binoculars, looking at a couple of these buildings, and we mark them on the map. And another week goes by, and we're out patrolling, checking out these certain buildings that we placed on the map, and we had realized that we were getting shot at every single time from this same building. We didn't know if it was some type of base that they had set up, or a makeshift outpost or something. But we thought, well, why don't we just blow this building up? We'll call for an airstrike, drop a bomb on it, it'll blow up, then they can't shoot at us anymore for it. All right, good, makes sense. So we call for an airstrike, it blows up, the building is destroyed. We're looking at it, and we're like, all right, cool, mission success. And call comes over the radio, hey, we want you guys to go and physically inspect the blast site and see if you can find anything. And we relayed back to them, that's not a good idea. We've been finding a lot of IEDs, and the chance of somebody getting hurt, like, it's just not worth it. Like, we're not going to find anything. We dropped the 2,500 pound bomb, it destroyed the area. No, we want you guys to go check it out. Roger that. So we grab a group of guys.
At that point, are you like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, why? Like, I can see, like, we dropped a 2,500 pound bomb. If anybody is there, they're dead. Everything's probably destroyed. Our chance of finding something, is it possible? Yeah, but it's, in my opinion, it's not worth it.
Yeah, risk reward.
It's just not worth it.
And there's no way you say, hey, we can't go.
No, yeah. I mean, I respectfully in a way, respectfully told them that I didn't think it was a good idea. And then once they follow up with the same exact thing they said the first time, then you realize that, yeah, you got to do it. So we grab our platoon sergeant and a group of guys. We go down and we assess the area. We find what we were looking for, which was absolutely nothing. We relay that back to them, to the base, to the COC. They're like, okay, roger that, come home. The sun was starting to go down, and we didn't want to be outside in the dark because then you can't see what you're stepping on. And if you can't see what you're stepping on, it makes it harder, or it makes it a lot easier to step on an IED, harder to see them. So our first mistake was our platoon sergeant said, hey, let's take a shortcut back. Because the route that we had come, we knew was clear. Nobody had gotten hurt. But he wanted to take a chance, which we do all the time. You know what I mean? Nothing out of the ordinary. We just, roll the dice, and we decided to take a shortcut back so that we could get back before the sun went down.
How long of a walk?
Couple kilometers, probably 4 or 5 kilometers. Nothing crazy, couple miles, but
which is substantial.
Rough terrain, though. You know what I mean? We're in the mountains of Afghanistan. It's 110 degrees. It's sand. There's hills, all that good stuff. So it would have taken a little while. So we decided to take this shortcut back through this town, through a courtyard, and I'll never forget it. I'm the third guy in the patrol. Staff Sergeant Silva's the fourth guy. He's right behind me. I got 2 guys in front of me, and then 3 guys behind him. And we're leaving the building where the blast site was, and we're coming down this.
Was there anybody around you at all at that time, or it was pretty wiped out?
Yeah, it was pretty wiped out.
No, nobody shooting you.
Yeah, nothing going on. The locals know when something like that happens. Stay in the house. Anybody that's typically out, they're not good people. They're not supposed to be out.
Were you near houses that were not destroyed at that point?
Oh yeah. There was, I would say, another little cluster of mud houses within a half mile of the blast site, and we're walking down this. It's almost like a hallway. There's courtyards on each side, so mud walls, and it turns to the right. And as soon as we turned to the right, an explosion happened, and I got blown through a wall, and felt like I got knocked out, and I woke up maybe a minute later, and I stand up and I go, okay, well, obviously I didn't step on an IED because I'm standing right now. So what happened? The dust, there's dust everywhere. You can't see. It's starting to settle a little bit, and I hear some talking and whatnot, and I make my way. I start walking around, and then I realize that Staff Sergeant Silva had stepped on an IED. He was about 5-6 feet deep in this hole, missing his right leg, his arm's broken, stomach's hanging out, his face is all jacked up. And first time I ever experienced anything like that, I'm like, holy shit, what do we do? And then immediately a light bulb kind of goes off in my head. The training kicks in. Stop the bleeding, grab some tourniquets, call for a medevac, get somebody else to come over here and apply some pressure to his wounds, put a tourniquet on him, keep him awake, talk to him, call for the medevac, make sure, we let the medevac know everything that's going on, his injuries, so that they can be better prepared for when they land. So I remember working on him, and, something that kind of stuck with me forever was, he's about to lose his life, and he was still worried about everybody else around him. He's still checking on us, and I'm like, this dude just asked me if I'm okay, and his stomach's hanging out of him right now, and I'll never forget that. And from that point on, I was, I told myself I want to be more like Staff Sergeant Silva. I want to be more selfless than selfish, because I feel like in my life up to that point, everything was about Brandon. You know what I mean? It was, how can Brandon get better? How can Brandon better his career? I never really had any of these other feelings until I joined the Marine Corps, and things were starting to change a little bit. And once I experienced that, I said, you know what? I need to be more like him. It's not just about Brandon. It's about what can Brandon do for other people? How can Brandon help other people? And those other people being my Marines that I was with in Afghanistan. So we call for the medevac. It's like an hour away. I'm like, we got to keep him alive for an hour. I don't know if we're going to make it.
At that point, you realize that's a very difficult task.
Very, very difficult. And I was like, there's no way we're going to be able to keep him alive. It's just not possible. So the medevac ends up taking a little bit faster, so it wasn't as long. And helicopter landed. They didn't want to land near us, so I had to transport him to the helicopter because they didn't want to land on another IED. So I picked him up, put him on my back, and carried him as far as I could until we got him on a stretcher, and then got him on the helicopter. And I'll never forget when he took off from the helicopter. After we put him on, I'm like leaning up against one of the vehicles that were there, and I remember, you can feel like sweat dripping off your face. And I felt it, and I went to wipe it off, and I realized that it wasn't sweat. It was I had his blood. I was covered in his blood because he was, I was fireman carrying him on my back. So his legs bleeding out. I got blood all over me, all over my face. My digital camis, my tan desert camis, were not tan anymore. They were literally red, and we don't have washing machine or anything over, so I had to wear them for the rest of the time I was over there. But I was just thinking about how close I was to losing my life, because the only reason there's two things that could have happened. I either stepped right over it, or I stepped on it and I wasn't heavy enough for it to go off, because I was 5'3", 5'4", 150 pounds. With my gear on, I was probably 180. He was 6'2", 240. So that could have been a possibility too. So it made me realize and put things into perspective that literally, not just saying this, every step that we take over there could be the last one. Like literally, you could step on a bomb and that would be it. Yeah. And that's crazy, because everything that we did, we walked. We had vehicles, but we didn't use them because the terrain was so tough. So we literally walked everywhere. So it was just, like I said earlier, it wasn't really when it was it wasn't if it was gonna happen. It was when it's gonna happen. So over the next 3 months, we had found, over the next 75 days, we had found 90 IEDs. So we were finding more than one a day, anywhere from 8 pounds to 40 pounds. I was the guy in front of or the guy behind somebody that had stepped on an IED on 3 other occasions. So at this point of the deployment, I'm thinking, sooner or later, I'm going to step on one of these bombs. Like it has to happen. I'm always right there when something's happening.
So they're just everywhere.
It's just everywhere. Yeah. I mean, I personally think that they were just so afraid of us that they did not want to get face to face. Like they knew that they were no match for us, but they also knew that they could get to us with the IEDs. But at the same time, it also showed you how much it worked in our favor, because it showed the locals how much they didn't care about them too. You got to think they're from the same country, but they're putting these bombs in these grounds, and these kids are stepping on them. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So once the locals started to see that and they realized that we truly wanted to help, things started to change for us. And the best thing you can do is have the local people on your side, because they're going to tell you where stuff is. They're watching everything. There's always that one person in that one neighborhood that sits on the porch and just watches everything.
Yeah. Same thing in our world. It's
it's the same thing over there.
Yep.
And if you get those people to trust you enough, and they know that you're going to go to bat for them, they will tell you. And they've saved us on many occasions. I'll never forget. We were on a patrol, and thankfully, the guy that was supposed to set off the bomb, it was remote operated. When we walked through, he was sleeping. So no shit. We found this guy, a wire that ran to this little hole in the wall, and there was a guy laying in a bed on the other side of this wall with this wire in his hand, and he had a remote in the other hand, and all he had to do was put them together. He was sleeping like this, and we woke him up, and he was like, "Oh shoot, what are you guys doing?"
Rip it out of his hand, or?
Oh yeah, because we basically took everything from him, blew up the bomb, arrested him, gave him to the police, but it was a 105 or a 105 tank shell packed with explosives that was aimed like at our waist, and it literally would have just cut like 10 of us in half. And it's just crazy to think that like the only reason we're still alive is because that dude was sleeping.
God, man, it's insane.
Like, he's probably going to get demoted, but it is what it is. Worked out for us.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, but and at the time, like that's just the stuff that we experienced. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It was just everyday stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's what we did day to day, and the majority of our time was spent pulling IEDs out of the ground or arresting guys that were supposed to put off IEDs. So fast forward 3 months, like I said, I was either the guy in front of or the guy behind somebody that stepped on an IED. On 3 other occasions, we had found 90 IEDs in the first 75 days that we were there. We had an element of Afghan army living with us. So we had 20 Afghan army soldiers that hated the Taliban more than we did. And these dudes were awesome. They would do anything that we told them to do. Always had our back. It was great working with them. We had actually taken over a house in one of the villages. So our base was up on top of a hill, obviously for defensive reasons. It's hard to take over a base that you have to run up a hill to take it. So we had the vantage point, but there was a village on each side of the base. So we would rotate our time, and we would go through one village and go through another. And we decided that we were going to set up a secondary base in one of the villages because we had found out that the Taliban there was a squad of Taliban living in this house. There was a couple of them. So we got intel, and we went and raided the house, kicked them out, and set up our own base in their house. That kind of as like an FU, like, hey, we're taking over your country. This is ours. Like, we're taking your house too. So we set up a base there, and what we would do is we would rotate every week. My section would go and stay there for a week, and we would run missions inside of the village, have a constant presence there, and then we would rotate, and then the other section would come. So not the only thing, but one of the things that sucks about the houses in Afghanistan is most of them don't have roofs. So it's just mud huts that are open, which means that if you can throw stuff high enough, it can go over the wall. So we found out that they like to throw grenades over walls while we were sleeping. So we thought, what could we do to keep them away from the area? Because there were blind spots. We had people on post watching, but there were blind spots. So I said, why don't we just send out a group of guys every hour, 4 to 6 Marines, do a security patrol around the building, keep people away, make sure that people know that we have people not only watching them from up high, but also from the ground around the building. So I sent out a group of Marines, and within 10 minutes of them being out, we hear an explosion. So I know right away, just from experience, I need to get to the radio to see what it was. So I pick up the radio. Lance Corporal Chavis stepped on an IED. He's missing both of his legs. We need a medevac. We need help now. So I pick up the radio, call for a medevac. It's like 8 minutes out. I'm like, this is great. We're going to be able to get to him. So I let everybody know, grab a couple of guys, and he's probably 300-400 meters away. We sprint down to where the blast site was. And just to give you an idea of the type of people that I served with, when we got down to the blast site, he was inside of a courtyard that had just been plowed, and it looked like they were getting ready to plant some crops or something. There was one entry and one exit. Right away I realized that there's probably going to be 10 more IEDs. They did that for a reason. If we were to send somebody in there and they got hurt, they know we're going to send somebody else in to get them out. So if one person gets hurt, somebody else is going to come in, chances are somebody else is going to get hurt. And then we're going to keep sending people in because we don't leave anybody behind. So their hope is that every time somebody gets hurt, somebody else comes in and gets hurt as well. So I knew I had a decision to make, and I turned around and I looked at some of my guys that came with me. There's 4 or 5 of them. One of my guys was sleeping. He woke up, grabbed his rifle, and just ran with us. Didn't have shoes on, didn't have a shirt on. Dude ran through Afghanistan with an M16 and pants on, barefoot, trying to help one of his brothers. Just to kind of give you an idea of the people that I was with. So I had a decision to make, and the concept I feel like is the same. Most of us have been put in a situation to where, we were told to do something, but somebody else got the credit for it. You had that boss that made everybody kind of do everything, and they were out golfing on Thursday, and they took credit for it on Friday. Yeah. For whatever reason, that thought immediately came to my mind, and I'm like, why am I thinking about this? And then I thought, well, because I got to be the guy to go in and get him. The easy thing to do would be to pass the stretcher off to one of my younger guys and have them go do it. because, I don't want to get hurt. So the chances of there being a secondary IED is very high, and I know that. So the fact that I just thought about all that and said all that to myself, I knew, well, shit, I got to be the one to go in and get him. Like, I just can't not be that guy. So I grabbed stretcher, my left hand. I got a rifle in my right arm, and I can see him. He's about 30, 40 feet away. And I got somebody directing me, take a step to your left, take a step to your right, and take that first step. All right, good, nothing happens. I got like 30 more to go. Take that right step, nothing happened. All right, good, we got 29 more to go. And on that third step, unfortunately, I ended up triggering a secondary IED. Blew me up in the air, felt like I did a backflip. I don't know if I really did, but it felt like I did. Saw the sky, saw the ground, then saw the sky again. And the bomb went off, and there's dust everywhere. I can't see anything. And it's just like the first one, basically. Except this time, when I try to stand up, I can't get up. And I'm like, oh, shit, what's going on? Still can't see anything because there's so much dust. So I try to stand up again, and I can't get up. I'm like, what's going on? And then finally the dust settles, and I look down, and, my left leg's gone below the knee. My right leg was still there, but my toes were actually facing the wrong direction. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then I had realized that my femoral artery had been cut, and I'm bleeding out pretty bad. My leg's broken in a million places. And that's why now it's amputated all the way up to my hip, because it was so destroyed. There was really nothing to save. And that's when I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to make it through this. My stomach was blown open too. I got a scar from my belly button all the way down. Both my arms were broken. Most of my teeth were knocked out. My back was all messed up. My neck, both of my arms. Lost the tip of my trigger finger. My pinky, they had to sew my pinky back on. It was hanging there. No, so I didn't have too many serious injuries. It was just a few paper cuts here and there.
Man.
No, I'm kidding.
Bro, that's insane.
Just
Insane.
Just talking about it, like it sounds fake. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I was supposed to make it through that, but I did, and for whatever reason I did. But I just remember laying there, like thinking, like, I don't know if you've ever been in this situation. I'm sure people somebody listening has, to where, life and death. Like, you thought that you were going to lose your life.
I was in a motorcycle accident where I was hit head on.
There you go.
And I remember, man, it was, I remember every aspect of it, right? And right before I hit the car, I just remember making eye contact with the driver. And then next thing you know, it was like hit. Everything went completely white, and I'm like, fuck, I'm dead. Like, I was like, I'm dead, and I'm laying there in the middle of the road, and I can't see anything. I don't know what's happening. I knew what happened, and I'm just laying there, and then all of a sudden I start hearing voices, and then my vision starts coming clear, and then I see one head here, one head here, one head here, and then there was probably 12 to 15 people surrounded me, looking at me while I'm laying on the middle of the road. Oh wow! And it was a very crazy feeling, man. That
you can't explain it, can you?
No, you can't. But you remember every bit of it.
It's nuts. And I don't know if this happened for you, but like, it made me, I don't know why, but it made me think about like everything that I had done up to that point in my life, and not good stuff, like bad stuff that like I wish I could have done differently.
Yeah, for sure.
And it all hit me for whatever reason. And I wasn't a very religious person, and I wouldn't say that I'm a very religious person now, but I believe in God. I go to church, but I'm not, I could have a better relationship with God. We'll say that.
Sure.
But at that time, that stuff just wasn't for me. But for whatever reason, I told God, I was like, hey, if you can get me through this, I will be different for the rest of my life. I promise. Like, that's how bad.
Time slowed down probably so instantly. Like, it feels like you were there for hours, right?
Ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about everything. Like girlfriends I had in high school and how I screwed them over. Like, shit that shouldn't even matter.
Yep.
And like, I feel bad about it. Or like, a friend that I, said I was going to do this for, and I just forgot about it and didn't do it. But like I feel horrible.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I thought, like, man, if I can do life differently, it's not just going to be about Brandon. It's going to be first, what can Brandon do to help somebody else?
Yeah.
Brandon will always be second. Because if you put everybody else before you, I am a firm believer that everything in your life will fall into place.
Absolutely.
It will. It might not happen as fastly or as quickly as you want it to, or, you know, the way that you want it to. But I know as long as I stay true to other people, do the right thing, and put other people before me, my life will be fine.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that.
Absolutely.
And that's what I said. And, you know, the helicopter landed. They put me on a stretcher, and they're carrying me to the helicopter. And I remember, you know, I'm still awake, thinking about everything. Really, still at this point, don't think that I'm going to make it. And I'm just thinking about where do I go from here? Like, what's next? Like, if I die, what's next? If I live, what's next? Like, I just have no idea what's going on. And I get on the helicopter and pass out. And I wake up 2 weeks later, back in the U.S. So I'd went from where I'd gotten hurt in Afghanistan to a hospital in Germany. Or no, where I'd gotten hurt in Afghanistan to a hospital in Afghanistan. Then to a hospital in Germany. And then back to the United States, where I went to Washington, D.C., to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, where I spent the next 2 years of my life. So, and later I had found out that when I got on the helicopter, I had died, and then they'd got my pulse back, and then they got me to the hospital in Afghanistan. I'd lost pulse again, and they got me back, and then once I was stable enough, they flew me to Germany, and then once I was stable enough to make that flight from Germany to the U.S., I was able to come back home, where I lived for the next 2 years in the hospital. Yeah.
Man, that is... You know, there's nothing you can really say, right? Like, it's one of those situations where it's such a nightmare that you don't know how to say anything, and I can't imagine what that's like.
It's just crazy to think. I mean, like, to hear you saying that, like, I mean, you've always been, you know, so grateful, and you thank me all the time for my service, and I have to tell you to shut up. But, like, think about, like, there's people that went through more than me in the military, like worse. Like, think about, and then there's men and women that didn't make it, that died. But think about, like, could you imagine going through something worse than surviving? Like, I couldn't.
Well, I believe you told me there was somebody in the hospital that you ran into that lost all limbs.
Both arms, both legs. His name is John Peck. I think he was at the time, he was one of two quadruple amputees to survive. And the dude now has 2 arms. He got transplant.
No shit.
A double arm transplant, and the dude can bench press.
I love it.
It's unreal.
I love it.
I mean, like, I say it so lightly, like, oh yeah, the dude got 2 arms. Like, I could not imagine living without arms. Like, I would rather lose my legs 100 times over than lose 1 arm. Like, imagine losing both your legs and both your arms. Like, dude was 20 years old when he got hurt. Like, couldn't do anything. His mom literally had to do everything for him until he figured out a way to be able to do stuff on his own.
I mean, you think about that, and you think about, you know, obviously your situation. You think about Peck.
Yeah, John Peck. Yeah.
Officer.
No, he was. I think he was Sergeant.
Sergeant Peck?
Yeah, Sergeant Peck.
Right, make sure, you know, respect the title and everything. Man, think about your life at that point, right? Think about what you're laying in the hospital bed. You're meeting someone like that. You're now in your situation. You're comparing, hey, I'm here, he's here, and you're finding any ounce or glimmer of hope to want to keep going.
Yeah.
Because I would assume at that point in the beginning stages, month 1, month 2, month 5, month 7, month 10 in the hospital, you probably have a why me moment.
For the first year.
Yeah.
And I talk about this in detail because it's part of my story. But like, I think I took 10 steps back before I took 1 step forward. Like, I was super selfish before I became unselfish. before I came selfless, because it was the why me? Nobody knows what I'm going through. My life sucks. You'll never understand. And then as time went on, I realized my attitude needs to be, I'm so thankful to be alive. I'm grateful that I have both of my arms. I'm grateful that I can still think. I'm thankful that I can still, function on my own, because there are a lot of men and women that can't. And I can be that person that motivates other people, because it's a task, and it is. I mean, people look for other people to motivate them. I mean, I do it.
Yeah,
I search people out. Like, I want to search people that motivate me. And I knew that I had the opportunity to be that for somebody as long as I worked through this. And I knew that I just had to, get back to some type of normal life, and that would just motivate people, let alone.
How did you come to terms with that?
So basically what I told myself was, the reason that I'm still alive is not for my pleasure, for my enjoyment. It is literally to save other people's lives, to keep them motivated, to keep them from taking the easy way out, to keep them from giving up on themselves. Because if I can push through the things that I've been through, and somebody else can see that, they might think, well, hey, what I'm going through isn't that bad compared to what Brandon went through. I should be all right. Because I think about that too with John Peck. I think, man, like, it sucks I lost both of my legs, but he lost both of his legs and both of his arms, and he's still going.
Yeah.
So what excuses do I have? So then I say to everybody else, you got 2 arms and 2 legs. What excuses do you have to not go out there and just do whatever you want to do?
How frustrating is it for you to see people that have essentially, quote, everything, right? And they just shit away at it. They let it go. They don't use it. They just don't value it.
It's so frustrating, because I see people like that, and then I see people that are working their ass off that wishes they had like a fraction of so-and-so's intelligence, and if they did, they would be like these uber megastars, and they would be super successful at what they do. And it just makes me mad, because it makes you realize that there's a lot of wasted talent out there, and a lot of people that just need to change their mindset and their perspective a little bit, and they could do so much more with their lives. And I feel like we're all in a position to where we should and we need to help other people. And as we grow and as we become successful, our goal should be to bring other people up with us. It shouldn't be just to enjoy all this stuff by ourselves.
Yeah.
So
the 2 years in the hospital that you went through, I mean, I think we talked before, and the pain that you were going through.
Oh yeah. I was prescribed pain meds. I was addicted to pain meds for 3 years. I mean, let's be real. I was prescribed them, but I still needed them, but I considered it addicted, because if I stopped taking them, I would get sick. But I was taking 120 milligrams of sustained release OxyContin a day. So 3 40 milligram tablets a day, 1 in the morning, 1 at lunch, 1 at night. And then as needed, as many as I needed, immediate release 5 milligram OxyContins. So literally I'd probably take, 150, 180 milligrams a day for the first 2 years. That I was literally like a zombie, but I was in so much pain that I needed it. And then once the pain started to go away and I started to need these less and less, I still realized that I needed them and not for the pain. And that's when I was like, oh, I got my real first taste of what addiction was like. And then, of course, the doctors, they always have this this miracle medicine that'll help. And, it was I think it was, to me, it was very early. I've never heard of it. But at that time, the doctor had asked me if I wanted to try a drug called Suboxone. And I had no idea what it was. He basically just said, yeah, this is medication we're using now to get guys off of the pain meds. Not realizing that it's more addictive, in my opinion, than the other ones. So I started taking that. And then I had to battle through that addiction, because obviously I got hooked on that stuff too. So it was just like replacing another addiction with another. And that's part of the reason why I didn't drink. Like, that's why I haven't drank since I got hurt. I mean, I might have had 1 or 2 drinks, but I've never like actually drank since I've gotten hurt. It's one of the things that I decided to give up, because when I was at the hospital, I saw some of the other men and women that were going through similar things that I was, and the trauma and the alcohol never mixes. It never makes anything good.
Yeah, of course.
Not just military trauma, but any type of trauma. As you know, people try to mask it with booze, and all it does is just make it worse.
Yeah, there's nothing good that comes from that.
No.
Zero. So you're there 2 years, and when you leave the hospital, you come back to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so I retire in 2013, 22 years old. Moved back to Western PA. I moved to Uniontown, leased a house for a year while my other house was being built. A fully accessible house was being built by an organization called Homes for Our Troops. They had actually reached out to me, and they were like, hey, we heard everything that you went through. We want you to be comfortable when you move back home. So we want to give you a new house. And I was just in shock, blown away, because one of the biggest expenses in your whole life is your house.
Of course.
So, I have a brand new house, fully accessible, with no mortgage, and it's allowed me to pursue other endeavors in my life. I'm able to take that money that I would have been, paying a mortgage or investing into the house, to now I can put that money away and invest it into a business and do other things, which has allowed me to get to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But having that house, I mean, if you guys want, it's called Homes for Our Troops. You can just Google it. They're a great organization out of Boston. They build fully accessible houses all over the country for our wounded veterans. Just a
amazing
great
organization.
Group.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to your home, and like, to make your life as easy as possible navigating wise, they've done a nice job, man.
Unreal.
Yeah, it was a beautiful
Thank
property,
you.
beautiful everything, and
it allows me to be independent. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Even though I have, my wife, she's amazing. She does literally everything. If push came to shove, and I needed to function on my own, I could function on my own in that house.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So now you're home. You're getting things going. You're acclimating to the real world.
Yep.
You have a beautiful wife, beautiful family.
Thank you.
You're starting businesses. Things are really going well for you.
Yeah, things are going in the right direction. When I first got back, though, when I moved home, I thought that I was like retired. Like, I thought that's what I was like, I'm 22-year-old retired Brandon Rumbaugh. That's what I want to be for the rest of my life. And then I realized that 3 months after I'd gotten hurt, or 3 months after I'd retired and moved back home, that if I didn't do something, it didn't matter how much money I had, how much money I didn't have. If you do not occupy your time with something meaningful, you will lose purpose in life. And that is why so many men and women in situations like me end up committing suicide and ending their lives, because they don't have purpose. And I got to that place, and I was like, oh shoot, I need to do something now before I get there. And went back to school, studied business at Penn State, got involved with a couple nonprofit organizations in the area. Started to get into business a little bit. Basically nothing in particular, but just basically becoming an entrepreneur. A lot of people, in my opinion, you can be successful in any industry and any business as long as people trust you and you're willing to spend the time and build the relationship with them. And I've realized that very early. I knew that, I could own a construction company and never pound a nail. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's people that do it. It's all about how you treat people and what you're willing to sacrifice and do for those people, those clients. Yep. They just want to be taken care of. And I realized that I had a special opportunity here, because people expect me not to work. They expect me not to do anything. People tell me all the time, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. So when people see me out there, working, they want to support people that don't have to be doing stuff. You know what I mean? Especially in Western Pennsylvania, especially where we're at in Pittsburgh. Very patriotic. We have, I think, 90,000 veterans that live in Allegheny County alone.
That's insane. Yeah.
Nuts. So I realized that people would support me if I had a business that provided a good service and a reliable product. I knew if I did those two things, that I could have a successful business, just because people alone want to see veterans succeed, especially in our area.
Absolutely.
They just do. You know, if you have two companies that do the same thing, one's veteran owned, one isn't, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go with the veteran owned company because it's a vet.
Yep.
You know, and people can say I'm taking advantage of it, but you know what?
Absolutely not.
I did my time. I got my legs blown off in Afghanistan. I'm going to pull that veteran card every chance that I get. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do shitty work for you. It just means that I'm gonna tell you where I came from, because I feel like it's important. Because if you know that I was able to overcome all of that adversity in my life, your project isn't going to be anything. We'll be able to get through it like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I want people to know my story, so they have that sense of relief, knowing that I'm a hard worker, that I'm gonna fight, and that I'm not gonna give up.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads you to Brandon Rumbaugh Solutions.
Yeah.
Land surveying company.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I studied business after Penn State, or after I got hurt at Penn State, and fell in love with the oil and gas and construction industry for obvious reasons. They're very patriotic industries. And I had an opportunity to get into that industry when an existing firm came up for sale. I decided to purchase that firm, and in doing so, you know, we realized that the core of the company was great. They just didn't have the leadership or the vision to get them to succeed. You know, kept everybody that was there as long as I could, and then we started making some changes and brought in some new people, and kept some of the rock stars that were there, and really turned it into kind of like a military structure. You know, it just works, being that I come from that background. So, you know, we're going on year 3. Obviously, with COVID, the fact that we're still here means a lot to me, because a lot of companies aren't.
Absolutely.
You know, we're a full service civil engineering firm, land surveying, environmental consulting, mechanical engineering, materials testing. I have a part-time structural engineer on staff. There's nothing too big or too small. We do a lot of oil and gas work with, you know, Range Resources, Equitrans, those type of guys. We do a lot of house surveys, you know, mortgage surveys. You know, your neighbor might call and say, hey, I want to put up a fence. I need to get my property surveyed. Cool, we'll go out and survey the property.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. There's no job too big or small that, you know, that we won't do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys in our industry that won't do that $800-900 property survey just because they don't want to waste their time with it.
Yep.
Me, I'll take any work we can get, you know what I mean? And we'll take care of you.
And we're going to put your information in the show notes too, company website, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, thank
you know, we want to make sure we get that out to as many people as possible, and you know, we'll do some posts on Instagram for people to see that. But yeah, it's cool to see what you've been able to continue to grow in the business in a short amount of time, and some cool projects. I know you and RJ Steele are doing some stuff with his upcoming project. I'm sure you've probably talked about them before on here, but they're really doing some amazing things. Absolutely.
They're building some amazing houses. RJ Steele Construction, owned by another Marine as well, actually. And that's how that relationship started. And I actually do all their surveying. It's just great. They're building some of these custom homes here in Pittsburgh that are more like California style homes, stuff that you wouldn't see around here, that looks really, really good in the city.
Yeah.
They're killing it. And, you know, my other business that it's really, really suffered since COVID is the speaking business. That's what I enjoy doing.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Getting out there, you know, sharing my story. People don't realize it's therapeutic for me to talk about it. Like, you know, people get something out of it. You know, I'm telling you, every time I speak, I can tell you how many people come up to me and say, man, like, I'm going to remember this forever.
I remember it was the fashion show in 2018, and you had called me and said, hey, what are you doing the day after? And I was fortunate enough to ride with you in the car out to Connecticut. And first of all, I got to see you speak in person in front of a couple hundred people. It was a beautiful audience.
It was huge, yeah.
I got to stand in the back and just kind of observe the people listening, watch their facial expressions, watch their reactions, hear you talk, and the captivation that you're able to portray when you're telling your story and the things that you've been through is just second to none. The one thing that I really took home from that was we were able to share a hotel room that night, man. And just watching you get up in the morning, watching you get ready for an event, watching you do your thing that we take for granted by having two legs, right? And it hit a soft spot for me because it was just like, man, like, don't take this for granted. It was motivating. It was incredible to watch you and to know your story, to know what you've been through. And the fact that you are so genuine, so giving, so caring, but also you want to just help other people. And you have every excuse and every reason in the world to not want to do those things. You have every reason to just say, fuck everybody. I'm so mad at this situation. And you've turned it into this beautiful life, this beautiful situation, this beautiful future. And also importantly, you're allowing people to look at you and to say, I need to change my life. I need to get better. I need to make something of myself. So the amount of people you've changed from telling your story, then the amount of people you've changed their future of their life, you've impacted thousands and thousands of people. And I think that's your biggest gift that you have, man. And it all goes back to the perspective that we talked about when we first started the show, was you are one of the most unique individuals. And I'm not just saying that. I tell everybody about you and your story.
Thank you.
And I get chills when I talk about it and when I think about it, because you've been through more than people can imagine. And you're one of the greatest people that I know, and would give the shirt off your back to anybody. And that's a tribute to nobody other than you. Because you've had the opportunity to go whatever route you wanted to go, and any route you went would be acceptable. And you said, hey, this is how I want to go. And kudos, man, over and over again to you.
I said this earlier, and I appreciate everything you just said, but one of the greatest things I did was move back to Pittsburgh, because the people that I've surrounded myself with that have taken me in, that have really helped me, are the reason that I am the way that I am. You know what I mean? Like, I have this tight, small group of people that I consider not just friends, but family, mentors, advisors. You're one of them that I know that I could pick up the phone and say, hey, I need to come stay with you for a couple of days and clear my head.
Done.
I wouldn't even have to call. I just show up.
Done.
You know what I mean? It's just, I am very, very thankful and grateful for you and for people like you in this area, and they know who they are. They'll be listening. My wife being one of them. I would not have anything that I have right now if it wasn't for that. If it wasn't for you guys. So
So let's and kind of in concluding everything here. I know we talked earlier today, and I saw on Instagram about the military
the Warrior Games. The 2021 Warrior Games. They're actually going to be at the ESPN Center in Orlando.
Nice.
Yeah. So
what's the date?
September 6th to the 23rd. And I'm competing. I'll be doing the bench press competition. I'm shooting the lightest weight class. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the lightest weight class that I found was 140 pounds. So I'm going to be competing in that weight class because I weigh a little less. I'm going to put on some weight. But my goal is to hit 400 pounds on the bench.
Good for you.
So
do you know the date that you're doing it?
I don't off the top of my head, but they should be putting that schedule out soon. Once they do, I'll get it to you and we can get it out there.
Yeah, because that two things. One, selfishly, I want you at the fashion show, and we're going to plan it right around that.
And I'll be there.
And then secondly, obviously, I want to watch. That
would be awesome if you come down.
Yeah, I'd love to come down for that, man.
So my goal is I want you guys to see me on Sports Center Top 10. Hopefully number one.
Yeah, good for you, bro.
Benching 400 pounds, breaking some kind of record down there. So
yeah. Awesome to see that, man. So we always try to leave people with some information here, leave them with something that they can take and spin it into their own life. And, obviously you've been through a ton, man, and you continue to pave the way for the future. The motivational speaking, the entrepreneurship, the family side of who you are. You are, to me, an ideal person, right, that people should mold their lives off of and set proper expectations, because you've paved a path. Leave some nuggets here for somebody. Hey, what do you want to leave in kind of the viewers, the audience here to kind of hear about their life? Anything?
No. Well, first off, I need to thank my wife, Cassie. She's a mental health counselor. She has her own private practice, her and her sister, and Elizabeth, called Sanderson Psychological. She sees a lot of veterans, and I think that being married to somebody like her, well, not that I think, I know, being married to somebody like her has helped me, because I'm not an easy person to be with. Everything that I've been through, like, she gets it, because that's what she's studied for the last 10 years of her life. So I'm very grateful for her. I have a 2-year-old daughter, Remy Delane.
She's the best.
She's awesome. And I just found out I have a son on the way. Gunner Daniel Rumbaugh will be here right around Thanksgiving.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Kudos
so
to you guys.
girl and a boy, thank you. But yeah, no, I just wanted to leave you guys with one thing, and this sticks with me, and I feel like I tell myself this all the time. But and my wife kind of gets mad at me when I say this, but it's how I view it. It's helped me, and hopefully it'll help you. But whatever situation that you're going through, whatever it is, whether it be a divorce, a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a pet, anything, what I want you guys to think about while you're going through that, and not to take anything away from what you're going through and not validate it, because your emotions are validated. But what I want people to realize is that situation that they're going through could always be worse. And not could it always be worse, but it has been worse for somebody else. And guess what? Somebody else has found a way to get through that adversity, and they've made something out of that situation. They've made something out of themselves. So once again, what excuses do we have to not continue on with our lives and be as passionate and hardworking as we possibly can, regardless of what happens? Because whatever you've been through, somebody else has been through it, and they found a way to overcome that adversity, and they've turned it into something great. I mean, I lost both of my legs. You know what? You know what the positive in that is? I don't have to wake up and run 5 miles anymore.
Well, the one thing I love the most that you always tell me, you know where I'm going with this, is the height thing.
Oh, yeah. So I was 5'3" when I got hurt. My wife, she's a basketball player. She's 5'9", 5'10". When I first met her, I was like, nope, can't be having you taller than me. So I went to my leg doctor, and he made me 5'9", 5'10". Greatest thing about losing both your legs, you can be as tall as you want.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you. Everybody that's listening here, everything we try to do, we just try to bring some form of positivity, get your motivation, get your creative thoughts going, and really understanding what life's all about. And we don't know our purpose of what we're here for, but we do know that we have an opportunity to make decisions in whatever direction that we go. And I'm a big believer in the fact that we have one shot, one chance to build a life, create a legacy, and do certain things and accomplish certain things in a small amount of time. We're mid-30s now. That's going very, very fast.
Very quick.
And I just genuinely believe that you get to dictate your outcome, and you get to control things. And to your point about, your problems versus someone else's, if everybody in the world had an opportunity to drop their own problems in a basket, they'd pull their own right out. And I think that's a testament of everything.
Yep.
And dude, I can't thank you enough. I love you, man.
I love you too,
your
brother.
family,
Thank you.
and would do anything for you, your wife,
Mutual.
Remy, and Gunner, and excited to continue to build with you for the next several years, and continuing to kind of kick ass and pave the way. And
yes, sir.
If you guys have an opportunity to book Brandon for motivational speaking, entrepreneurship speaking, I promise you it's the best hour, whatever time frame you're willing to book. It's well worth motivation for your company, your business, for your brand, anything positive that you want to get out. His story will go in more detail in those speaking engagements. I've seen it firsthand, and it will certainly change your life. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I appreciate you, Brandon, for being here, and can't wait for this episode to air. It's going to be a lot of good stuff. So thanks again, brother.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you.